Okay, everybody, this is a long time coming. This is a grumpy old guy gaming, and that last word just seems to have been more of an abstract, especially for the channel here. It was easily the busiest November I can remember, certainly the busiest in my grumpy old life working, but we're full on into December now, and kind of been trying to keep good on my promises to scale back a bit and enjoy life. And no better reason to do that than an early holiday present I got. A couple weeks ago, I found out that this existed. Wizardry Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord, the SirTech classic, being facelifted, revamped, remade, rebooted, however you want to say it, right on the bones of the Apple II port by Digital Eclipse. It's in early access on Steam, and my wife pointed it out to me. The missus, you may remember Wifey Gaming a few times on the channel if you've been around for a while. She kind of was insistent I check this out and instantly fell in love with the project as soon as I saw it. So this became an early holiday present for me, and now I'm going to share it with y'all. The last update, where they added in some fun features and a lot of quality of life sort of things, it was right around the time I got this. It was just after Thanksgiving there. So I've been playing around with it a little while, and I wanted to show you what I've been doing and sort of set the tone for my next leg of this adventure. Gonna head in on the wonderful channel named save file, because what else would I have? Now you can see we have a party here. I am going to go ahead and pull them from the roster for now. Just taking a look here, it's a beautiful splash page. I know an older version of the game allowed you to sort of jump around to different places on the hub, but honestly, this static image is perfectly fine for me. And I do love the little update. I don't know if the music is coming through. I think I may have it on the lower side due to fragment and whatnot. But it is a nice little sort of update and revision to the music that I'm used to for Wizardry. I got into this series on this game, but the NES port, which I recently found out had a frustrating bug where armor didn't work. So all of those years I spent, grinding for the sturdy plate and shiny chain, as it was called on that port, just was useless. I may as well have just been walking around in robes because I effectively mechanically was. We have accrued a little bit of gold up there, about 5,000. And I want to visit the training grounds real quick to show you something kind of fun here. If we inspect the rosters, we have some Fragment characters. Fragment fans, of course, that has been a game I've, touched rather heavily upon. And here is Gogs, my heavy blade. He is a good dwarf fighter in this, working well towards becoming a lord, which is essentially a paladin in the Wizardry games, at least the classic. Got Grumpo Guy, who I turned into a priest, an effective cleric. Dionysius is a good elf bishop. That was a wizard on the Nintendo port for reasons that mystify me. Slith was actually the rogue in my D&D party as a kid, because you couldn't not have a rogue. Need a thief to, disarm traps and pick locks and whatnot. I was never a big thief player, but Slith was always the one I had around. And it actually does have a bit of a tie-in. It was actually what I named my first infection save file. Then, of course, you have Repkosai, the Blade Master. I turned into a samurai. I got to go the whole way to the other end of the roster there. That is Wee 2. I originally had Wee T, who was doing fine as a mage, but kind of ran into an unfortunate situation and permadeath. This is a game where you can lose your characters entirely. Wee T had fallen, and I attempted to raise her using the D or life spell from Grumpo Guy. It failed and she was turned to ashes, so I took her back to the Temple of Cant, and, well, their name sort of lived up to itself. When it came to reviving, they sure can't. So Wii T is gone and replaced with Wii 2, because I like that screenshot. That is my main party for this game so far, and as you could see, things were going pretty swimmingly. We were between levels 8 and 11, actually made it down to the 9th level of the maze, and keen observers will see that they're all dead in the maze because I ran afoul of one surprise round. So we are about to start Wizardry, the .hack rescue run. But we need some levels first. Let me introduce you to the characters we will be taking around for today's stream as we level up a little bit, gain some experience, and take a tour of the first few floors. Got Telner, who is a neutral elf samurai. He was a spell sword that I used as my de facto fighter, I want to say playing Tunnels and Trolls. I don't even think he was an original D&D guy for me. Grumble is a dwarven fighter because dwarven fighters are good, and Grumble is a good name for a dwarf. Draven is a good elf bishop. Again, typically a wizard for me in D&D, and since bishop equated to wizard in the NES port, that's kind of where it's stuck. Cynic, good human priest. In D&D, I actually run Cynic as a half-elf, but always a cleric. And then Deleased. He's my thief because picking lock should be the least of my worries. Sathon is a human mage who honestly could not hurt a fly for the first few levels, and then I picked up level 3 magic, and he's been on a tear ever since. That's going to be the roster I'm leveling up for the rescue mission because, again, my main party is all sort of in a very, very precarious position deep in the labyrinth. If I sent them in now, these guys would also be dead in the 9th floor, and I'd just be stacking bodies. So we're going to go back to the tavern and add them back in. They're the only ones in the tavern, so that makes it simple. Take Grumble first, then Telner. Going to go with Deleased third. Cynic had been a frontliner for me there, and I actually just recently switched it out because Deleased got a massive hit point boost in the last level. I like having the priest in the back row there to cast buff spells, but it is a viable fighter if somebody gets paralyzed or whatnot. Gonna head down into the maze. I do have some maps popped up off screen here as a guide to help me out because it's 2023 and modern conveniences could be a thing. Back in the day, you would have to map this out like pen and paper, and you can see a mini map right to the left there as I opened up the camp to just sort of show things off here at a glance. That mini map is actually what they're calling, they being Digital Eclipse. Sorry for the lack of proper description on that. They're calling an ambient map. So that map will change from viewing to viewing based on what your party has seen and won't necessarily, gotta slow down my speech. Apologies again. It won't necessarily reflect the honest to goodness truth all the time, because there are wrong turns, there are teleporters, there are little tricks in the dungeon that will fool you, and it will fool your party, and that will be reflected. However, there is a spell you can cast. It's a rather low level, first level mage spell called Doomapic or Doomapic. It will sort of take a snapshot of the area you've covered in the labyrinth, and that will be accurate on some of the settings. So you can go ahead and just pull that up with the square button. And as you can see, I've mapped out a good deal of the first floor here, just over various points. We are right down at 0, 0. Got the stairs back to town right behind us. And this part of the labyrinth here, this very first portion, is something I've had in my memory for decades now. Come down this way, there's one room at the end of the hall, just shy of the end actually, and I do love the little dressing they have here. I kind of wish Right Analog Stick would let you look around a little. I know some of the Japanese Wizardry titles had that feature, and it was fantastic for exploring. Everybody likes to point out the skeleton back here that sort of took an axe to the backside, furthering a split that had naturally occurred, and I do love the ones pinned to the roof and the wall. But that one adorned just above the doorway there almost looks like it's sort of lackadaisically waving. Just a hello and welcome to the dungeon, as it were. So we're going to pop in. And as you could see, the map is updating to what we see. We can see the far wall and around, but in order to get the squares beside us, we would have to turn. I'm playing this on controller. I do believe there is pretty functional mouse and keyboard support as well. Another thing you may notice is in the lower right-hand corner, we have a little mock-up of the wireframe of the Apple II port. Again, this is being built on the bones of it, so that is not just an homage or anything. That is literally the game playing in real time, and I just popped it up there so we could take a look. We have an encounter. Got kobolds and orcs, as you could see in all of its digital glory, and then I am going to pop this little transparency out here as we have 3 kobolds and 5 orcs. Put it back in the corner there, and there they are proper. So let's go ahead, have my frontline fight. I can switch between groups with the direction buttons here, but I'm going to have my frontline fight. I'm probably not going to waste any spells on these guys. If we get hit, it'll be a lucky shot, and more than likely, if any survive combat, they will just sort of run, as you're seeing a good deal of them running now. So we have 3 orcs left. We got a couple kills in on the kobold. I think just 1 kill on the kobold, what am I saying? Getting a couple hits and just nothing lethal. This party not super optimized. It's a nice balanced party. Toner gets the final kill, and that's a little extra experience to the pool. Let's go ahead and inspect the chest. That's going to be Delish checking it out, and he's fairly certain it's an unarmed chest, so we'll let Grumble open it, as the biggest hit point pool is kind of the best option. Getting a quality 6 gold there as we continue mapping out the ambient map. Another beautiful thing they've added in, if we go here, is a bestiary, so we can actually go ahead and look. You can identify enemies and further inspect and investigate them to learn their resistances, their base hit points and whatnot. You even get a little bit of trivia about them. Like here, the porcine orc is an age-old enemy of the elves and dwarves, roaming the maze in hopes of filling its stomach with human flesh. That's a rather varied sentence. I'm assuming they mean humanoid flesh there, because an age-old enemy of the elves and dwarves wouldn't be fighting off elves and dwarves just to eat humans. Unless they're telling me things about the elves and dwarves in the wizardry world that I wasn't aware of. Maybe they're all just sort of hungry hippos anytime they see humans around, which is a very, very dark sort of fantasy setting now that I think about it. But it will update as you go here. Got some great looking models in here. Not all of them are finished. Let me pull. Oh, God, I love the Murphy's Ghost model. Let me see if I could pull up one here that's incomplete. Okay, they don't quite show them here, I don't think. But you can run across incomplete animations that they're still working on fleshing out, perhaps even thinking of changing down the road. And those will be marked with a little hammer and pick symbol to show that they're being worked on. Here we have some undead kobolds, and they get a free surprise round, and it seems like they're going to spend it banging their swords lightly off of my fighters' shields. Just go through, get the least, a little more combat experience. Probably forward to best. There you see, we actually took a little bit of damage. Another trapless chest. And a little more gold to the coffers. Gold in this game isn't so much spent on items as it's going to be spent on revival and whatnot. Cost of living very high as an adventurer. Now you may have noticed when I camped here, this would be referred to as in camp in the original. But I have this key inventory here to the right, and that's a list of key items that I've picked up throughout my travels. The silver, bronze, and gold keys obviously open doors, as do the statuettes of the frog and bear. I do believe they're useful on multiple floors. It's not just an item for one door somewhere in this 10-floor labyrinth. The blue ribbon has a special function that actually unlocks the elevator to the lower floors. The subtitle of this game, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord, is technically referring to the first 4 layers of the dungeon. Why it was built is anyone's guess. The Overlord Trebor, however you want to pronounce it, was indeed a madman, and he basically set himself up for failure as he provided these proving grounds as a chance to test worthy people. Unfortunately, the evil wizard Werdna decided to head to the lower levels below these 4 floors, as this dungeon now has amassed 10 levels in depth, and has stolen an amulet of considerable power and importance. And that is all the plot you really have for this game. Gonna keep heading in. If you look on the ambient map, where we're standing should be facing a room, but that room doesn't explicitly have a door. And if we go ahead and hit the X button, you could see we could reveal a secret door and head in, and we find a battle with a pair of bushwhackers. Again, I'm an old wrestling fan, so 2 bushwhackers for me might as well be named Butch and Luke. These guys do tend to flee at the drop of a hat, so first damage doesn't really surprise me. What does surprise me is we actually got a kill on one. Picked up a decent amount of experience there. I want to say this is, that is actually the room where I found the silver key. Nothing else there anymore. But this is another area I sort of have in my head, is this would be a place I ground for experience many a time over. This actually just heads down with chains of doors and halls the entire way, every other step. It's a total of 4. And then you get to this seeming dead end. However, it's not quite as dead an end as you think. It is a hallway, and it does lead to a wall. When you turn around, the hallway is gone because you've been teleported down into the lower right corner of the labyrinth. That's actually what's going to take us to our first long-form battle here. A particular room with a particular ghost. A hooded humanoid statue is here. You can see the face is sort of glowing. Statue is bejeweled with precious and semi-precious stones, and this is where you encounter the constantly resummonable Murphy's Ghost. Murphy's Ghost is an homage to some of the beta testers of the original game. I believe they were friends of the original developer of the game. And it is a pain. If we look here on the quick sheet, it's got a base armor class of -3. For those unfamiliar with old school, like first edition Dungeons and Dragons and advanced Dungeons and Dragons, armor class started at a base of 10 like it does now, but it descended in value. So you were looking for the lowest armor class possible. An armor class of -3 is flat out amazing, actually. Thinking about its comparison, that would be an armor class of 23 in the modern day. It's pretty darn good. You can see a 40% magic resist. Resists just about every element that you could cast upon it, and regenerates a hit point every round. Not too much else you could really do to it. So instead, we're going to take a look at some of our other spells here. And we're just going to go ahead and help out the party. We're going to buff, give a 4 armor class improvement from our cleric. And we're going to try a couple darkness spells here. If these both hit, it should give a 4-point armor class penalty, raising Murphy's armor class all the way up to 1, which should be infinitely more reachable for our fighters. I don't know if the least is actually going to hit a single time in combat here, but Grumble gets a quality 10 damage in there. I don't think the armor class really matters. I want to say Murphy's Ghost bypasses your defense on his attacks. Now we'll just sort of conserve spells as best we can. As you can see, when the party parries in the back row there, their armor class is reduced by an additional 2. Telner getting a shot in. Yeah, even in a -4 armor class, Murphy's still coming after Grumble. Fortunately, he's not doing much damage. See, we could also toggle the health bars on and off. Got Murphy at about half health here. I kind of like having it on. Gives you that quick sort of progress. Grumble's sort of the anchor of this particular party. Every now and then I find when you move super fast, the game doesn't quite catch up graphically, but in all fairness, it's worlds of improvement from the previous. Picking up 55 gold apiece and some decent experience. Now we're going to have more fun with shenanigans within the dungeon, sort of make our way through this winding trip here. You can see that ambient map is just trying to make sense of everything we've seen, and it's now layering paths on top of paths, when in fact the two things it's layering on top of are quite a bit apart from each other. Found our way back into the darkness, and now we have 4 bushwhackers. This stable just keeps growing. since we're showing off some spells that I do believe they've done beautifully as Digital Eclipse, let's try the old classic. I'm going to cast Catino, which is Bad Air or Sleep. It's a sleep spell with my wizard. Bishop. My apologies, with my bishop. And my mage is going to go ahead and cast... I have my choice of Halito, which is a single target fire spell, little fire. Or I could go with Mahalito, big fire. Let's go ahead and try and take out the group. If Sathon's initiative is high enough, he should act before the bushwhackers and wipe the board. Not so lucky there. We got one kill, a couple fleed. Wow, he's way at the end. So the spell will actually be wasted, as you will go through the entire combat round no matter what. But the spell effects, as I said, absolutely, absolutely stunning. I want to say we want to head down this way. Yep. Now we are heading right back out before we get stopped by more kobolds and orcs. A few of the orcs take this good surprise chance to run away. Kobolds statistically a touch braver this time. That's a bit of an oddity. Let's go ahead and have Grumble match up again. Yeah, we'll have Grumble match up against the orc, and we'll let Telner and Deleast go against the kobolds, but we'll back them up. We'll go ahead and have Draven and Sathon both casting Halitos in the direction of the kobolds as well. Got a one-shot kill. Bit of an assist on the second kobold, and then the orc went down in due course. Love it when a plan comes together. Again, Radiant map still a little iffy, but level map perfectly fine. Before we head out, we're going to save ourselves some money and literally some time by letting our priest cast heal spells for what little damage we lost in our battles. One of the reasons I run with a bishop is to have the versatility of some mage spells to help out in battle and some extra heals on the back end. It takes forever, as you can see, spell progressions to get a bishop into the higher level spells. But it does help to have them on hand, at least I feel. Coming back to town here, we're going to visit the inn. The inn has various types of rooms. Typically, when a character would stay at one of these rooms for long amounts of time, not only would it sap their money, but it would age them a little quicker. You can just take a quick nap in the stables and keep them younger. The original game actually kept track of age in years, and after a certain amount of time, you'd just be too old, your stats would start diminishing. You just wouldn't be that effective of an adventurer. And I'm pretty sure, like, your chance of revival was less and less. Now, they've put into this sort of revamp a stat called Vim, which effectively replaces it, though they did leave the option in to just go with classic aging as well. I like the Vim stat because at a glance, it's just sort of vitality, and it goes down a little when you use these healing factors, and I'm sure other things like deaths and status effects that impact your character negatively will also factor in. You can see as we stay here, we get little updates on the experience needed to next level. Another important thing this map does is refreshes the spell slots of our casters. This is, again, using old school Dungeons and Dragons or Vancian magic, where you don't have a set mana pool, but rather characters who cast will have certain spell slots. For instance, you could look here at We2's profile. And you've got the spell slots right up there. You have 8 first level, 6 second level, 4 third level, and 2 fifth. Going to go back into the maze, and this time I think we're going to venture down a little deeper, because again, these guys have to get some levels going before they try and recover a party on the 9th floor. It could be attempted now, but any encounter would pretty much be a total party wipe. Catching 2 more bushwhackers here as we make our way to the stairs down. They did surprise us, and then didn't care to do anything with that surprise. We gain no experience, but we do pick up some coins that they had left behind. Maybe it fell out of their pockets, maybe they were reaching for it and the surprise was mutual. Coming here to the 2nd floor. This is a floor I tend to not dive too deep into detail on. There are 3 key items that you get here. I believe there were 2, 1 or 2 on the 1st floor, and then 3 here on the 2nd. My favorite area is actually the area leading down to the 3rd floor, as we have this bit of a windy path that turns into a big giant spiral in upon itself, with only 1 room this entire way. And this is a great place to pick up some experience at lower levels. Here you can see we've got 18 creeping coins. There you could see the hammer and pick symbol, as these aren't really fully animated. You have a bit of a jumping coin animation there, but there aren't any attacks or anything put in yet. So we're just going to go ahead, fight these guys out. Have Draven cast a Halito because it's what he's got. And we'll let Sathon do what Sathon does. Throw some Mahalitos, some bigger fire, on that middle group. Battles are going to go a bit quicker here because, again, there isn't so much to animate. But then it's going to take a while because there were 18 of these coins at the start. We will do our level best to narrow that number down, though. You know what? Let's have these guys attack the lower group, numbers-wise. Have Draven cast another Halito. And let's let Sathon continue with the big fire parade. Well, look at that. The least got a kill. That may be the least's first kill this entire time. Picked up over 2,000 experience per character there. And it does break experience down on a per character basis. So if you face something rather high in level and most of your party falls in that combat, the fallen won't quite reap the benefits, but the survivor's going to get a huge chunk of experience just for being the one who lived to tell the tale. Could see Telner and Draven right in the middle of the party now have these little animated arrows pointing up, which means they're ready for a level up when we get back to town. Which we should probably do soon here, because I do believe we've exhausted a good bit of high-level spells. Got 3 bubbly slimes and 2 creeping cruds. Yes, even camping on a safe square could provoke combat here. Let's let the fighters handle the bubbly slimes, which I know are just slimes. Going to have Cynic go ahead and cast. Let's cast a Bama too. Maybe get that armor class that much lower for everyone. And we will cast some more fire in the direction. You know what, let's do fire and let's do Melito. Let's do sparks in the direction of the creeping crowds. Hey, Sathon got them both, which is great because creeping crowds can poison. So another successful battle in the books there. Picking up a bit more money. I'll show you here as we get to the end of the loop. There's our destination for the next run, the stairs to the 3rd level. Here in this level 6, 7, 8 sort of range, you're just sort of picking up the skills you need for longer dungeon runs. Filling out those spell slots, getting tangible levels of hit points, and amassing the gold to actually buy some stalwart defensive gear. Took a bit of damage there on a Halito spell. And Telner just swoops right in for the kill. Level 1 mages you'll most often find on their lonesome. Occasionally they will join up with other people, but checking the Bestiary here. Pull up their card and see that they're a 1d1 group size. When you fully discover everything, you could actually pull up fantastic little information like other enemies that a monster may party up with, like accompanied by bubbly slimes 15% of the time is a little blurb here you get for the gas cloud. Could also keep track of their random encounter and fixed encounter treasure types if you really want to go into all that work. I also love the little tidbit they put down here in the lower left corner of the screen where it shows what floor they were seen on and what characters actually identified it. You'll see a lot of Wee T and Dionysius on this, a fair bit of Grumpo Guy, and a little bit of Gogs. You're not going to see hardly any of the party we currently have out because I did a whole lot of exploring before I'd even thought of building my backup team. But you could see a good bit of the Bestiary that I've uncovered there. I forgot to heal up. What am I doing? Rookie mistake there. Fortunately, we could go right back into the entrance here. I kind of wish there was a way to do base interactions in town rather than having to dive into the dungeon here, but this is essentially what you had to do back in the original, obviously, so it feels on point. It's just one of those quality of life things I would personally wish for down the way. Cynic getting very capable at these healing spells. And let's head to the end. Grumble's almost a level higher. Tomer is very much a level higher and now gets some extra spells and whatnot. Let's go ahead and add that attribute point in strength. Maybe make it a little easier to hit and kill. Deleased coming up on a level up. We'll definitely have to get Deleased strength up now that he's going to be a frontliner. Draven picked up a hit point and some more spell slots, which are fantastic. Back into the maze, and this time let's just take a straight shot and see if we can get to the third floor. There is an easier way to the third floor. There is an elevator, but I much prefer the stairs. And I'll get to that more when we get to floor 3. I love also that they varied the little message. It always had a little message when you accidentally bumped into a wall, but I believe it was just ouch by default. Yeah. You can see we're getting out, ba, ack, oof, oomph. Whereas that was just stuck on ouch. I'm glad it doesn't actually do anything to your characters either. It's just that little bit of a message. When I first started playing, I always thought maybe my lead character would lose a hit point if I accidentally bumped a wall. And then I got worried about the possibility of electrified walls. Coming to this game after playing tabletop RPGs, I was very cognizant of what could happen in a dungeon. That said, I've always had a soft spot for classic Dungeons and Dragons, and the dungeon crawl in particular in both tabletop and video gaming is something that is very dear to me. As is that logo, the dragon and the sword there. So like I said, we're here in the third floor. And as you can see, I've mapped out a good bit of the third floor, but I've also done so rather carefully. There is a good reason for that, is the fact that on floor 3 here, there are about 5 pit traps that you can fall into and lose a considerable amount of hit points. This is also where enemies start to gain some teeth. So I'm generally cautious on where I walk here. You're going to find all sorts of secret doors just opening up these sets of rooms. And you can actually work pretty vertically through the rooms. Like this. And as long as you're in these little rows of rooms, you're safe from the pits. But you could see right in the center of the floor there on my Duma pick map, just off of where we took the stairs, if you look dead center in the map, there is an elevator. There are 2 elevators in this dungeon. One will take you from floors 1 through 4, and one will take you from floors 4 through 10. Picked up an ogre here, typically an enemy I've seen on the 4th floor, but one lone ogre on the 3rd makes sense. It acted first and ran away. Not going to help us in our experience quest, but we do get 30 gold pieces a pop. Each character got 30 gold pieces for watching an ogre grunt and run away. Not a bad day's work. Just saying. I am intentionally dancing around a little. I don't know if there's anything meant for the already open door. I think that's just a nice little bit of dungeon dressing. Yeah. The reason I say that is the first couple times I encountered doors like that, I got encounters, and I wasn't sure if that was a thing they were denoting, that there was an encounter imminent. There is a place on the 4th floor where there is an encounter imminent square. but that's something we'll touch on maybe in a level or two. 2 priestesses, another incomplete animation. Love the coloration on this, though. The green and gold, not too gaudy, but still vibrant. And since we actually get a chance for proper combat here, let's go ahead and explore what we've got here. Did Draven learn anything? I think he just got new spell slots on. Yeah. So nothing too crazy there. Let's go ahead and cast a darkness spell just to sort of ease up on things. You know what? Yeah, we'll cast a pair of darkness spells because what's one without two? Telner already hitting pretty well. Could see everybody but Telner is silenced as both priestesses decided to cast Montino. So we will be casting no more spells this round. Oddly enough, Telner is a samurai and very well could cast. In fact, he's got Delto, so if we wanted to, we could make that a 6-point armor class discrepancy. But I would rather attack, as sword skill is his primary ability, and that instantly paid off. Grumble took 6 damage from a Batios spell, which is harm. And yeah, we have actually gone through that whole row. We are right back to where we were. And if you look here, coming down, mapped out that whole area, so I'd easily be able to find the stairs down to the 4th floor. See, Grumble's ready for a level up, but I'm not ready to head back just yet. Yeah, I didn't think there was a... Oddly enough, if we come back here by the stairs, could actually get to the elevator from this little intersection here. Run into a friendly group of dragonflies. If you were playing a more evil party or wish to change your character's alignment more to the neutral and evil side from good and neutral, you could fight them, or you could leave them in peace. And if you do that with an evil party, if you keep leaving them in peace, they will change in kind. So yeah, if you take the door down here, I'm going to take you into a bit of a winding room. And there's our elevator. It can take us back up to the first couple floors or down to the 4th. I've always been a fan of taking the stairs for the 3rd floor. I'm also a fan of just going through the doors as much as possible. I always felt like you got more encounters going through doorways in this game. And I could 100% be wrong on that. It just always felt that way. That door behind us was actually a one-way door. So what the heck? Let's go ahead and take the elevator down to the 4th. I've been down to the 4th with this party before for a total of 1 battle. My worry is having the same sort of effect happen to this party that happened to my other party on the 9th, that they're not quite able to handle casters and a surprise round at this strength. Apologies for the shrill noise there. That alarm, however, is your battle imminent. From this point, any square you travel in any direction is going to be an encounter. So I typically head back, and this is a good way to level grind. Here we have some grave mists. I have some information on them, not a ton. Base armor class of 4 can be hit. They can also hit us pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and get Bama 2 set back up. Going to make it a little easier to hit with some Dilto here. And let's throw some Mahalito. A little bit of big fire. The old Grave Mist's way. Get that armor class penalty in right away, and you can see it's already paying dividends. And Grumble didn't even get a chance to take a hack at him. Picking up a little bit of extra experience. Obviously, the most efficient way, if you've been paying attention here, is either to stay on the 2nd floor and keep taking out creeping coins, or just keep grinding Murphy's Ghost, which is technically the classic way of grinding experience. Here we have a huge spider and 8 boring beetles. There you can see the boring beetle. And there's the huge spider. Both we've checked out pretty thoroughly. I think we'll have the fighters focus on the spider. Let the mages play with fire. I'm hoping that the Mahalito takes out most of the beetles. And it took out a total of 0. So now we've got to sort of readdress the situation here. The spider is taken care of, so the poison is taken out of the equation. Let's go ahead and have Cynic cast. Cynic has that Manifo, which is difficult to resist, but the beetles do have a natural resistance to it. So instead, I think we'll just go with a 2-point buff. We'll have Draven cast a Delto, and we'll actually use a slightly higher spell here, as we do have a 4th level spell slot. We'll let Sathon cast Morless. And now we should be getting a quality 5-point armor class discrepancy going in our favor. This battle is quickly going to look like a lot of aggravation for Dungeons and Dragons aficionados. That battle where everyone's just shy of hitting. As you can see, when boring beetles hit, they do quite a bit of damage. Part of the reason I was very cautious there. Got to start winnowing these things down here. Took out a couple there. That's a good sign. Not quite hard enough a swing to hit. Telner getting down in the old hit point range. But Telner and Grumble helping to winnow the field. This is getting dicey. There we go. Now it's taken care of. That should be a good experience buff. Yep. 1593 and 35 gold. So let's go ahead back to the elevator, and this time we'll ride it all the way up to the first. Walked right into that wall there, which was my sign it was time to shift over. And now we're right back to the beginning. Do have a fair bit of healing to do. And we do have a more potent healing spell, granted not a ton of the slots available for it. But every little bit helps. Also helps that we managed to keep all of the damage in the front line. I say as I waste a heal spell on Cynic by clicking the button too quick. That will expend all of Cynic's heals. So we'll head over to Draven, and we have 5 more heals before we head back. Almost got back to full. So we'll take a quick stop into the inn for Cynic and Draven, just to get spell slots back, and then back into the maze. Because again, wasting coin and literally wasting Vim on the larger rooms, just not my style. Got those casts back. And now back to the inn. Grumble is going to head. Gets 9 additional hit points. Fantastic. And 3 attribute points. Yet another option you could toggle on or off are the attribute points. I chose random allocation at start and assign at level up. That allows for the classic rolling up of a character where you could just sit there and keep sort of running the system for generic characters until you get a lot of bonus stat points to give yourself a bit of an advantage in the early game with better stats. But I also disabled the way stats used to work on level up, where it was all random. Some stats would go up, some stats would go down, and that gets especially frustrating when trying to build up for classes like Lord and Ninja, which take very specific stat builds. Police definitely getting some extra strength there. Make a fighter out of him yet. At least a fighting rogue. But yeah, I do believe that's where we are going to leave off. Been streaming for a little under an hour, I want to say, right around the hour mark. Do thank you if you came by to check this out. An awesome port of a classic game, and one that has a ton of nostalgia for me. I think I would like to go ahead and do like a little series at least showing the level up and attempted rescue mission, and attempt to show if any of the resurrections are successful of my poor party stranded, dead and dying in the 9th floor of the dungeon. In the meantime, thanks again for stopping by. I hope you're all doing well out there. This has been a Grumpy Old Guy Gaming.